over the years, Mike, you've presented a lot of really interesting information and ideas about ghosts and spirits and angels and demons and stuff. But I've come across a somewhat classic case that some of you might have heard of before, but we've never covered. And I've recently watched it on a program, and it's just so fascinating, I thought we had to cover it. Now, I think this case kind of proves, to a degree, that somebody who was alive died, and their spirit came back. And they didn't just come back and say howdy to some family members. They came back and solved their own murder.
Are you sure you weren't watching a Tales from the Crypt episode? Because this sounds a lot like a Tales from the Crypt episode.
Pretty close. It was Unsolved Mysteries.
Yeah, that's supposed to be true stuff, though. Are you sure it wasn't Tales from the Crypt? Was there an old crusty zombie thing that cackled and told horrible puns that were awesome?
Nope, just a hip old man in a trench coat that talked like this.
Hanging by his neck in his fucking closet.
Maybe you can solve a mystery. But yeah, this case is just amazing. It blew my mind. And after watching it and reading up on it a little bit, it kind of challenges everything that you've talked about over the years. So I'm interested to hear your take on it. Did you get to read anything about it before we started?
Yeah, I did.
Excellent.
I'm still not convinced you weren't watching Tales from the Crypt, though.
Really?
Tell the story. I'll reserve judgment until the end.
Okay. This story is about the case of Teresita Basa. She was born in the Philippines in 1929, but by the 1970s, she had relocated to Chicago, Illinois, and was working as a respiratory therapist at the Edgewater Hospital. But on February 21st, 1977, at 9 p.m., firefighters responded to calls of a fire at Teresita's house placed by her neighbors. After the flames were put out, they found poor Teresita in her living room, stabbed to death with a mattress placed on her body, and her body had been stripped of her clothing. But the police were confronted with an even more strange scene that was rather confusing. All her clothes were ripped off, but she had not been sexually assaulted, and nothing of great value, as the police could tell, was taken from the home, which left them with basically no evidence and no motive for a crime like this. They did find a note that they found of interest that read, "Get theater tickets for AS." They didn't know who AS was. There was nothing else that related to anybody with the initials AS or anything like that. 5 months after the murder, the officer in charge of the case, a guy named Detective Joe Stanchula, received a call from Remy and Joe Chua. They claimed to have information on Teresita's murder and wanted to meet with him. The detective agreed to come over to their house and see what they had to say. Remy was a co-worker of Teresita's and claimed that shortly after her murder, she began having visions and dreams where Teresita would come to her and beg her and her husband to go to the police and tell them what happened to her. One evening, Remy was taking a nap when Joe said that Remy started to speak in someone else's voice. The voice claimed to be that of Teresita Basa, and that she was killed by a man named Alan Showery. After doing nothing about it for a few weeks, Remy became possessed by Teresita once again and asked Remy and Joe why they hadn't gone to the police with the name that she had given them. Joe explained that they had no evidence to support any types of claims, let alone enough to go to the police and have any charges filed. Teresita said that Showery had taken some jewelry from her and that he had given it to his girlfriend. So the detective did some research and found that Remy, in fact, did work at the hospital with Teresita, but so did this Alan Showery. Showery was a orderly at the hospital, and he was brought in for questioning. He admitted to being at Teresita's home, but the day before, and at her request, to help her fix a broken television she had at her house. This was confirmed with other coworkers, as both Teresita and Showery had made mention of it to their coworkers. They had no real reason to hold Showery, or not enough evidence anyway, so he was released. But this Detective Joe, being a badass, didn't stop there. He then called in Showery's girlfriend without him knowing. She quickly confirmed that Showery had given her some jewelry as a late Christmas gift. She agreed to bring the jewelry in and allow Teresita's family to look at the items. Teresita's family ID'd the jewelry as jewelry bought by Teresita's father in the Philippines that he had given to her mother that her mother had passed down to her. After this, Showery was arrested, where he confessed to killing Teresita, where after he went to fix her television, he made up the story that he needed some different tools, where he planned to come back and rob her, where he did, and senselessly killed her for no apparent reason, and placed the mattress from her bedroom on her body and lit it on fire in order to destroy the crime scene and the evidence. So in this case, we have somebody that's presenting themselves as a ghost, maybe. I don't know. There is a couple questions I have for you about this case, because I mean, when we cut through the bullshit of this story, these details and this information is coming via dream and vision. They're not really saying that a floating apparition appeared in their room. And to be honest, I mean, they could have just had some information about this case and said that. But if that was the case, I think they just would have said that. I don't see the reasoning behind calling a detective and having him come over and saying that they're getting this information from a spirit. What do you think about this case?
To me, this is definitely not a ghost. I think it's evidence for existence of some sort of life after death. I don't necessarily think it's evidence for heaven as we think of it, but I think it is evidence that the soul exists, or the spirit, the essence of the person exists after the body is gone. And somehow and you have to wonder why is this case special? Of all the unsolved murders, why doesn't everybody come back and say, hey, this asshole killed me, go get justice on my behalf?
Yeah, I wonder why she had the capability to do so. I mean, to me, this case is special because they got this information from her, and there is some type of paranormal thing that's going on, because her husband said that when Teresita talked through Remy, that her voice changed and it wasn't his wife's voice anymore. So there was something weird going on.
That is the weirdest part, though.
It is. But to get information, I mean, a name.
Yeah.
And then have another event happen, and to give the details of the jewelry. I mean, that's a step.
Right.
What the fuck? I mean, these people either killed her or they're getting information from a fucking spirit.
Yeah. Yeah. What if the person that was allegedly channeling her spirit, what if they were the ones that killed her and they thought this whole plan up, and they were able to get this jewelry and give it to this guy and be like, hey, why don't you give this to your girlfriend as a late Christmas present? And then he's like, oh man, that's a great idea. And while you're at it, why don't you go fix that lady's TV? And then he goes over there and he's thinking he just has to adjust the antenna or something. And in reality, they're just setting this motherfucker up. He goes over there and the TV's completely busted. He's like, man, I can't fix this TV. I gotta go. And then he leaves. And then her work friend murders her, takes the jewelry, meets up with that guy, and they're like, oh, Teresita felt bad that she came out for nothing, and she wanted us to give this to you. And he's like, oh, well, that's pretty awesome of her. I'm going to go give this to my girlfriend. And so he gives it to his girlfriend, and then they're like, oh my God, the ghost came and told me that he stole the jewelry. And then, concocted the whole story. And really, they just framed this poor guy. He was a concerned citizen just trying to help her adjust the bunny ears on her TV. And then she was murdered after he left.
Well, I mean, that's easy enough. They could have just killed her before he even got there during the initial visit. He just shows up and she's dead. So obviously he bolts, gets scared, obviously doesn't call the police, but he could have said all this shit after he was arrested. He instantly confessed to everything. I don't know. I wish I could have found more on the guy, because I would really love to ask him, what do you think about a ghost putting you in jail?
What if when he dies, his ghost comes back to haunt the people that framed him? And if they happen to die before he does, he haunts their next of kin. And then the curse gets passed down from family member to family member. Never shall you rest as long as my ghost roams the universe.
It's like a spookier version of Shocker.
Yeah. Yep, except he can't jump through electricity and he doesn't drag his leg.
Yeah. Or just a milder version of Fallen.
There you go. Yeah, that movie rules.
Yeah, it does. But I mean, what you're saying about energies, life force, I mean, isn't that just all new agey shit for spirit and ghost?
No, because a ghost seems to imply a spirit of a person that's trapped on Earth that's maliciously haunting something. Or maybe not maliciously, but willingly haunting something. And I think you got better shit to do after you die than just stick around your old house and be like, oh, I'm the ghost that's haunting the apartment. Oh, I think that's bullshit. I think in cases like that, it's something else that's drawn to whatever happened there at some point. And I think it takes advantage of the fact that something gnarly happened there to get people to acknowledge that it's there. And of course, if weird shit starts happening at a place where someone died, people are going to be like, oh, that's their ghost trying to communicate with us. Oh my God. And then they've got this fucking creepy goblin demon thing just chilling in the ether, just being like, yes, give me the attention so that I can gain strength. And then he comes through and then he starts banging on walls and then he starts fucking burning houses down. And before you know it, there's corpses popping up in your swimming pool, and it's a big mess. But I don't think it's somebody who's just stuck on Earth being like, I'm going to just stay in my apartment, fuck you guys. Can't kick me out.
But if there's a reason for a spirit to be trapped, isn't Teresita Basa's situation perfect for that?
But think about it. When they always say it's a ghost is the spirit of someone who has unfinished business. When you die, who the fuck doesn't have unfinished business?
That's true.
There's always something that you haven't done that you wanted to do, or some regret that you have, or some private misery that you never told anybody about. And there's always going to be something. No one dies 100% content. Be like, you know what? Every decision I made in life was the perfect decision. I have no questions about anything that happens in the future, and I can die happy. Nobody. So, I mean, if that was the case, everybody would be walking around as a ghost. Every single buddy. Bunch of ghosts. And who knows? Maybe that is the case. Maybe when you die, you just become a ghost, and some are content to just live ghost lives, while other ones are dicks and like, you know what? Fuck the ghost life. I'm going to go fuck with the people. And they're the rogue agents of the dead folk. But I hope that's not the case, because if by the time we die, I mean, already it's going to be super crowded in Ghost Earth. And that just sounds really shitty. When I die, I don't want to be crowded by other fucking ghost spirits and ectoplasm.
No way, dude. It's going to be more Twilight Zone than that. Every dead person's going to have their own plane of existence, like their own dimension of an empty earth that they're on and that they haunt.
Well, I can get behind that. That'd be pretty sweet. Just give me my own place. You get your own reality. Do with it what you will.
Speaking of Twilight Zone episodes, I mean, a lot of their stuff feeds on the fear of loneliness, just being trapped on Earth to where you're not able to communicate with anybody. Would that be a stressing factor for you if that was the case?
What do you mean?
Would you, initially get over freaking out that you're a ghost and nobody can hear you, but like after a month, would you start freaking out that you can't talk to anybody?
No, I think I'd be all right with it.
Yeah, same here.
Fuck the people. I would go to so many. I would see every movie ever. Yeah. I would go to every concert that I ever wanted to go to. It would be incredible. And I wouldn't have to deal with people pushing me around or bumping into me or spilling beer or stinky hippies or any of that shit. I could just go and be fucking. I could be on stage with the band and just watch them, and nobody would know anything, and it would be so cool.
Yeah.
And I could go to movies for free. The only downside would be I couldn't smoke weed and I wouldn't be able to eat. Because even if I wasn't hungry, food tastes delicious.
That would be a willing trade-off for the ability not to need sleep and food.
Oh, shit. Yeah. Not needing to sleep, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
I would read so many books.
Oh, yeah.
And I would watch all of Netflix. I would just start in alphabetical order and work my way through Netflix. Every now and again, I would just, jump out from around a corner and startle someone. They wouldn't be able to see me, but they would just be like, oh my God, what was that weird presence I just felt?
You'd have to do that, man. If I'm ever a ghost, I'm definitely doing that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Fuck with as many people as possible. But only in fun and cheeky ways. Not like, hey, I'm going to smother you with your curtains or anything. Unless you call the Ghostbusters on me, then I'm going to take offense.
Yeah, because they're coming to bust you.
Yeah.
But as the song says, busting makes you feel good.
Yeah, it does. It really does.
Oh, God, I don't remember where I was working, but that song was on at work. My friend's like, do you ever notice that? I was like, what? He's like, busting makes you feel good? I was like, no. And then every time I ever heard that song after that, I just laugh.
It's an awesome song as is, but busting makes me feel
yeah,
good.
Just the friendly reminder of busting makes you feel good. It makes that song all the more special.
Mm-hmm. I can't believe that guy never had any more hits.
Yeah, I know. That keyboard line.
Yeah.
This song's about nothing.
Yeah. Gives a whole new meaning to ectoplasm.
Yeah, he knew it. He made the connection.
Gross.
Sir, we're going to need you to write a song about ghosts. Okay, tell me about these ghosts. They're like green flying blobby slime balls that leave a snail trail of ectoplasm.
Did you say snail trail? I got just the thing. Say no more.
Just if you have any confusion about what I'm talking about, I'm throwing in a line. Busted makes you feel good.
Oh, God damn it. I'm never going to listen to that song the same way again. You've ruined it. Or made it better. I haven't decided yet. I'll report back later.
Mission successful.
Either way, was your mission to either repulse or endear me?
I don't know. I just can't believe I never heard that song before. I mean, when this guy left work, like people made him a shirt that said "Bustin' makes me feel good" on the back, and had the Ghostbusters logo on the front.
So are you telling me the end when all of the white goop falls from the sky, that there's more to it than just roasted marshmallow gunk?
Yeah, that's what he's trying to tell you in the song.
That's gross. It's I don't like it, Mateo. I don't appreciate it. I don't want Stay Puft Marshmallow Man to bust all over New York City.
Yeah. Well, this case is also unique because it's not just somebody coming back and providing accurate and correct information. It's enough to solve their own murder. Have you ever heard of any other cases like this?
Yeah. Have you ever heard of the Greenbrier ghost?
Ooh, not at all.
Really? Okay. So it was this woman named Elva Zona Hester, and she lived in Greenbrier County in the late 1800s. But her story was that she married this drifter. Oh, shit. His name's fucking awesome. So she married this drifter named Erasmus Stribbing Trout Shoe.
Yowza.
Yeah, awesome name. So they ended up getting married, and within a few months of being married, she died. He sent this kid to go get his wife, and the kid went to his house and discovered his wife at the bottom of the stairs, dead. So they investigate, and when the medical crew and the law enforcement and everything at the time shows up at the house, the husband has already arrived. He's already stripped the body and washed it. And the medical examiner comes in, and he alternates between acting really sad and acting really energetic. And when the medical examiner comes in, he's examining the body and he mentions that there was some bruising on the neck. And by all accounts, Erasmus got really upset and started crying and making a big scene. So the medical examiner just kind of made a really quick look over the body and then called it a day and said that she had died when she fainted and fell down the stairs. So at the funeral, her husband was acting really like over the top devoted to the care of her body. And the casket was open, but he wouldn't let anyone near the casket, or he wouldn't let anyone touch the body. And he was seen taking a pillow and putting it on one side of her head and then rolling up this blanket and putting it on the other side of her head. And he was saying that this will help her rest easier once she's buried. And this blanket was one of her favorites and she loved this pillow, so I'm putting them in with her so she can have them forever. And he was just acting really weird. But the whole time, his mother-in-law was convinced that he had killed her daughter. But there was not any evidence to suggest that, so she couldn't say anything really. But a few weeks after the funeral, she started having these dreams, just like in the previous case. And the dreams basically told her that this man was abusive the entire time they were together and that he had broken her neck. And to demonstrate it in the dream, the ghost twisted, well, I shouldn't say the ghost, but the dream vision of the daughter twisted her head around backwards to show that her neck had been broken. So her mother ends up, after being visited 4 nights in a row through these dream visions by her daughter, she finally goes to the local prosecutor, and his name was John Alfred Preston. And she goes to him with her story and tries to convince him to exhume the body of her daughter for re-examination. And the medical examiner had admitted that he didn't give the body a thorough search, and the public sentiment was that she had been murdered. So everybody was pressuring him to exhume the corpse, which he finally agreed to, and the medical examiner got to look at it and really examine it. So they did a full autopsy, and it was revealed that the vertebrae connecting her head to her shoulders had been broken and separated so that it was no longer connected to the spinal column, and the windpipe had been crushed completely. So it was evidence that she had been strangled to the point where her neck broke and her windpipe was destroyed.
Damn.
They call him in. He says he knew he was going to be arrested, but they'll never find any proof. And during the trial, I should say that this is the only trial where a ghostly visitation was used as evidence. But during the trial, both the prosecution and the defense interviewed her mother to get the details of what happened with they wanted to hear her side of the story first, and she was advised by the prosecution not to bring up the ghost, but she did anyway. And the defense tried to jump on that, but it didn't work. And apparently the jury believed her story because they ended up convicting him of murder.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he was actually he was sentenced to life in prison, but because he was found guilty, the locals were fucking pissed. So they formed a lynch mob. They wanted to hang him. They were going to break him out of jail so they could hang him. But law enforcement stepped in and broke up the mob before anything happened, and he ended up dying in prison.
Lucky bastard.
Yeah, but the ghost prosecution, man, they were able to use this ghost thing as a way to prove the guilt of somebody in a court of law.
What do you do though with that? What do you do if you're a judge and some murder victim's relative comes to you and says, I'm being visited by this person in dreams at night, and they say that they have been poisoned with this specific foxglove poison, let's say foxglove, and they, dig up the body and test the cells, and it's got tons of foxglove in it. You can't ignore that. I guess you wouldn't be able to use that in court, but how do you ignore that?
I don't know. I don't know what you can do in that case, because it's not, especially if you're dealing with the court, it's fairly rigid, and they're not going to believe that a ghost told you. Well, a ghost came and visited me, and he told me and they're going to say, no, fuck you, bring me evidence. And then you're going to say, I can't because it's a ghost.
Yeah, you're probably going to get investigated yourself, but even then,
yeah, I think that would, especially, could you imagine trying to use that in court today? I think that they would deem you a untrustworthy witness at that point and say this guy is clearly prone to flights of fancy and his testimony is unreliable.
I wonder when the last time something like this has happened. And I'm sure there's been plenty of times where people have said that, we all know about the devil made me do it stuff, or they heard voices, but to where, they were able, if they had information that could have proved that they were getting this information from otherworldly means. We all hear about the psychics that work with police. That's interesting as well, but to have an embodied energy reveal information that leads to convictions is just bizarre.
Yeah, especially when the evidence is there. And like you said, what do you do with it? What can you do? There's nothing that you can do about it that makes sense. You can say you want evidence, but when the facts all line up, if you're able to have the facts line up through legal means, you can't refute that. Like with in your case with the jewelry, everybody was cooperating willingly, and it turned out that the jewelry itself was in fact stolen jewelry. So what do you do? How would they have known that otherwise? There's no possible way, unless, like I said, they created this huge crazy conspiracy to frame this dude for murder.
Yeah, it's interesting, to note that the Alan Showery guy, after he confessed, he pled not guilty, but because of the ghost stuff, a mistrial occurred. But when they retried him, he decided to plead guilty, which they only gave him 14 years for.
14 years?
Mm-hmm.
For murder?
Yeah, he's since been released.
That's pretty fucked up.
Yep.
Has he murdered anybody else?
I don't know. I'd have to look him up, and I don't care digging
What's the reasoning behind the such a short sentence?
I don't know, and that happens a lot. Sometimes in some places, that's the fucking sentence. I don't know. The mistrial obviously was probably because of the ghost stuff and evidence and how police acquired evidence, but you can't ignore the fact that his chick had jewelry that belonged to the murder victim. I wonder if that has to do with the harshness of the sentence. They couldn't get him on like capital murder, so they could only get him with like murder 2 or something.
Yeah, I don't know. How do you sentence when a ghost is testifying?
Yeah. Apparently they have loopholes because they use psychics all the time, right? Cops they still use psychics.
Yeah, but that's not, like, they're not doing anything illegal at that point. And if a psychic were to, say, tip them off to where a body might be and they find the body, they can just say that a citizen gave them a tip and they were acting on that tip. And that's all it required. So long as where they were searching didn't require the use of a warrant, then there's no loophole at all. They're just following a tip, and that's it.
I wonder, because I'd assume the courts and the defense would just say, who's this witness? Oh, look, they're a professional witness because they're a fucking psychic. They're saying they saw in a dream my client kill somebody else. You'd think that would get thrown out.
You'd think so, but I don't think they have to disclose that it was a psychic that gave the tip.
I think the defense has full rights to examine the witness.
They can examine the evidence, but I mean, if someone just says, "Hey, there might be a body in the woods behind that pine tree, maybe you should go look." Then you go look, and then you're like, "Hey, how did you know that?" And they're like, "I'm a psychic." Dun, dun, dun. This week on Psychic Cop. But I think in those cases, it's more like the police reach out to psychics to help them rather than like random psychics showing up. And certain psychics are known to certain people in law enforcement. And I've heard plenty of interviews with psychics that have helped cops and say that they've got like relationships with various officers or chiefs. And they're called on to kind of see if they can feel anything, I guess. So it's not just some random person. They're kind of reaching out, being like, "Hey, do you have any advice?" And then they're going to think on it and be like, "My psychic intuition tells me to look in the park tonight." And then they go look in the park and they find the severed head of little Bobby. And then they can start looking for evidence. And how they found it doesn't matter because they weren't breaking any laws or doing anything that required a warrant or anything like that.
Hey guys, sorry to cut in like this. Please forgive the terrible sound quality. I'm not recording in my normal location. I don't even know where to start. There's been some weird things going on, specifically with Mike. I've been having some difficulty getting a hold of the guy, so much so that we didn't even meet up to record an episode this week. Now, I don't know what to make of what this message, voicemail that I got from Mike says, but he does mention that we have plenty of shows stocked up, so shows will still come out as normal. But I just can't get a hold of Mike. He says in this recording that he wants this recording to be released, so that's what I'm going to do. You guys make what you will of it. I'm not sure. I just know that it's in times like this, you try not to panic, try not to assume, and I guess wait.
Hey man, it's me. I'm kind of in a hurry and I just wanted to leave this message for you, so I guess so you had some idea what's been going on. I know it's been kind of hard to reach me the past few days, and there's reasons for that, and some of the things in the show that we do, I've kind of been, as you know, I've kind of been going down this rabbit hole that we've been discussing. I mean, really, I guess this has been going on for a while. Everything going back to when we had Martin on to talk about the Skinwalker Ranch, or when I was discussing the MyLab stuff, and it's kind of really kicked off since the Hellier thing, and I think I've alluded to it a little bit, but honestly, man, things have been getting really fucking scary, and I don't really know when things started, I guess, but they're really fucking escalating now, and I'm scared for me, I'm scared for my family, and if I'm being honest, I'm scared for you, and I want to apologize. This isn't something that I had intended to get as far as it did, and I really hope that this doesn't affect you. The only thing that I can say, and this is kind of a bummer to hear, but I know we've got some shows ready to go that we've recorded, and I guess some of those you can release a couple of them. I would really avoid doing the human mutilation show. It's getting a little too close to the mark, and you're probably already on the radar because of your association with me, but I don't think at this point it would be a good idea to put that out. It's entirely up to you. I don't have any control over that. You've got all the files, and I don't know. But the other one should be safe. I'm going to be gone for a while, man, and I don't want you to stop doing the show. Maybe I'll get back before we run through the shows that we had recorded, and I can give more of an explanation. So I don't know. We'll see about that. But avoid any of those things that we've discussed in private that could get us in trouble. And I've told you a few times about the weird things that have been going on, especially over the past few weeks. And I don't know. Maybe you want to take a clip of this and release it to the listeners. Just actually, yeah. If you could, I don't know. Maybe you don't want to put this whole thing in, but if I would feel safer if you could put at least a part of this message out. So if anything were to happen, at least there'd be more than you knowing that there's been things going on. So I don't know, man. There's a lot that I haven't told you, and I don't even know where to start with this, because I've been kind of getting in a hole, literally a fucking rabbit hole, and it just seems like the deeper I go, the more things become uncovered, and there's been things that have been coming up and happening that have been kind of they've kind of led me to believe I'm on the right path, and I don't know how much that I can say about it. Just because I don't know who's going to be listening to this, and I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but or draw more attention than needed. But when I told you about the guy that I had been seeing at work, and then strangely I started seeing him in public in my local area, and I found out he's also the one that's been following me that I was telling you about before. And all this has really been escalating pretty quickly. I tried to confront him the other day. I got stuck at a traffic light, and he was 2 cars back. And I decided to take the chance to get out and approach his car. And as soon as I did, he threw his car in reverse and turned around, and I haven't seen him since. That doesn't make me think that he is not still watching, or that someone else isn't watching, or maybe even listening to this right now. I don't know. I don't know how far it goes. I don't know what the reasoning behind it is. But you know, aside from that, I told you about all of the weird contacts that I've been having, and the phone calls and the other things. But it's those other things, man, that they freak me out the most. and it gets to the point where I don't really know if doing the show is still a good idea. It's I don't know. Back in June, it was it's dangerous for me to get too far into it and really tell you what's going on, but it's just there's a lot of weird shit that goes on in this world, and I've told you about this. I've said it on the show, and it is connected. And I wish I could show you the evidence, man. It's overwhelming. Once you see it, you really start to understand where it's all coming from and where it's all going almost. It's not as difficult as you think it would be to understand once you've seen some of this that I've the winds are picking up here. I don't know how much longer I'll be able to do this, but I just be careful. Really go through our shit before you release it. Make sure there's nothing referencing what I told you about before. And again, I can't stress enough that mutilation episode that it's not something that we should put out. We hit on some things there that I think while we were recording that they may have known, and I think that is probably why we had so much trouble trying to record that episode. And I mean, honestly, I don't even know if you've listened to the audio from it yet. It could be fucked completely. I don't know, but I would say avoid that one, and I would say be really careful. Really go through our shit, and if some of those things that I referenced to you start happening to you, I would recommend just pulling the site completely, just taking everything off the RSS feed and just closing down shop. It's not worth it. So, we're doing this for fun. We're not here trying to get involved in shit that's going to harm us or our families. And I mean, the show is kind of an outlet for me, but I've been doing a lot of shit on my own here, and I've been keeping you in the dark about it because, I mean, really, it's for your own safety, but also, I mean, what are you going to do here across the country? There's nothing, and I know how your anxiety is, so I can't, I didn't want to really tell you how things were really going. A sighting here, a sighting there, an experience here. That's one thing, but oh fuck. All right, I need to go, and just remember, be careful what you put out, and just be careful.